when I teach people how to write, most people want to write so they sound smart, right? I want you to write as if you're communicating to the reader. Because if you think of a book, you read it, it goes into your eye, into your brain, all right, like a textbook.
Yes.
And hopefully you can remember it and regurgitate it on the test, right? If you want a book that really moves people, you want them to be able to read it and have it go to the heart and then the brain. Because when you touch someone's heart, you make tremendous impact.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's your host, Brad Blazer, with the second highest rated podcast, according to Yahoo News, Yahoo Finance, and Business Insider. A lot of people call me the Robin Hood of knowledge and Robin Hood of information, because what I like to do is take knowledge and information from those that have it and share it with those that need it the most. Today is no different, folks. I have got an amazing woman joining us today. As an entrepreneur, as an international speaker, best-selling author, mentor, philanthropist, and a licensed CPA, as well as a chartered global management accountant, Sharon LECHTER is the premier expert for financial literacy and entrepreneurial success around the world today, folks. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brad, and congratulations. It's wonderful to support people who are doing such an incredible job in sharing information that people need, especially in the world we live in today.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. You know, I talk to roughly 25 to 40 people a day that have expressed interest in our coaching and or consulting services. And one thing that really disappoints me is the fact that so many people, number one, don't have financial literacy, but number two, so many people don't have literally the ability to invest just $1,000 in themselves. And when I talk to people that are that destitute, that literally have that much difficulty investing in something as important as themselves, it really tears my heart. So today, I'd like to learn a little bit about, your backstory. Obviously, we're going to talk about your tremendous successes in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, as well as some of the other work you've done with Napoleon Hill, and really get to know you much, much better. My team has been doing a lot of research where we know a fair amount about you, so hopefully I'll surprise you with some things along the way. But why don't you share your backstory with our listeners, really maybe starting with your studies at Florida State, and then just kind of fast forwarding from there.
Well, thank you, Brad. Of course, I'll try and give you the Cliff Notes version because I've been around a long time. But I grew up in a very lower middle class environment. My parents didn't even have high school diplomas, both got their GEDs. And we lived in a small house between my mother's beauty shop and my dad's used car lot. Now, my dad, who only had a third grade formal education, ended up running the engineering school for the Navy. So he was a very smart cookie. But we lived between their two businesses. We owned rental properties. At the age of 11, I had to scrub out bathrooms between tenants, and we had orange groves. I swore I would never be an entrepreneur. And I was going to be the first generation to go to college, which I was. I was going to become a sophisticated professional, which I did. I got my degree in accounting and was one of the very first women in public accounting in Atlanta, Georgia, and was on a very fast track in my career. But about the ripe old age of 25, I said, gosh, I'm working really long hours for someone else. Anybody feel that? And so I had one of my clients come to me and I said, every phone call can change your life. And he called to say he was buying a company out of bankruptcy and wanted me to come help him own a piece of the rock. So it was an opportunity for me to own part of what I really invest in myself. And I remember sitting at my desk and going pros and cons, right? On the old yellow legal pad. This was before personal computers or cell phones. It didn't help me a bit. I could argue both sides. And then my hand kind of took off across the top of the page and said, why not? Why not do something different? Why not take a road less traveled? And that really became my philosophy that I still have today. Why not do what others haven't done? So I left and quickly found out why not, because the company had all kinds of corruption. But I ran away a couple of weeks to figure out what the next chapter would be, came back, and I met a young man who was using my office. We were involved in some litigation from the prior bankruptcy, and his name was Michael LECHTER. And we ended up last week celebrating 40 years of marriage. So as Napoleon Hill says, out of every adversity comes the seed of an equal or greater benefit. So my worst business decision gave me my best life decision.
Wonderful.
So fast forward, yes, I started a woman's magazine, sold it. My kids didn't like to read, so I met the inventor of the first talking children's book, helped build that around the world by learning the power of association, partnering with Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street. Sold that company in its 4th year and moved to Arizona almost 30 years ago. And our oldest son went off to college in September, came home in December in credit card debt. I was pretty mad at him, but more mad at myself because I thought I'd taught him about money. But I didn't know he got credit cards when he got to campus. And so he had a really good time his first semester in college, but he had to learn how to get himself out of debt. We wouldn't bail him out. And that was December of 1992. That's when I dedicated the rest of my career to financial literacy. So fast forward a few years, I'm working with the school systems. And that's when I got another phone call from my husband. He'd met Robert Kiyosaki, who came to talk to him about getting help in patenting an idea for a board game. I met him at the beta test of the game, and it was 100% consistent with what I was teaching, the importance of buying, building, or selling income-producing assets. Yeah. So that gave birth to the Rich Dad organization. I told him I would help him with the game. He asked me to be his partner. I told him we should probably write a brochure because he wanted to charge $200 for the game. Well, quickly, that brochure was something called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So most people don't know that. We never expected it to take on a life of its own, which it did. 10 years later, we were equal partners and I was running the company as a CEO. We did 15 books together, a lot of different audio products, a lot of different other book series. And in 2007, I made the decision to leave because we were no longer aligned in what we wanted to do with the company. And sometimes you have to close one door for other doors to open. And I want people to really listen to that. That's why I share this in the story, particularly what's happening in 2020. Sometimes you have to close a door or a door gets closed on you and you need to find other doors of opportunity. So a few months later, I got the call from President Bush, asked to be on the very first President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy. I served both President Bush and President Obama, equal opportunity when it comes to financial literacy and the need for it. And then I got the call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation asking me to step in 2008 during the financial crisis to help reinvigorate the teachings of Napoleon Hill. I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 19. So what a huge honor for me to be asked to step into that. And I've now done 4 books with them, 3 Feet from Gold, Outwitting the Devil, Think and Grow Rich for Women, and Success in Something Greater. It's been an incredible experience. And I continue to work with school systems. I'm working with the state of Arizona, getting financial education in the school systems. And so I've been really blessed to have a lot of opportunities, seeking those, making them happen. Also, I've had a lot of experiences that other people would consider failures, but they're learning opportunities. And so now my greatest joy is helping others through my mentoring programs and through my education and books to find the things that can help take them to the next level. We're still not teaching people about money in school, so we have to provide it and have people be able to find it and not spend a fortune, somebody that can afford it. And this year in particularly, with the fear, Outwitting the Devil helped me, a lot of people get through what's happening. Fear of the unknown, fear of the pandemic, fear of financial collapse, understanding how to take control and not let fear paralyze you, but motivate you is what we're trying to do. So
I love it. You know, one thing that you failed to mention, which I also want to bring to the attention of our readers in the work you did with Napoleon Hill on Outwitting the Devil and Think and Grow Rich, is, correct me if I'm mistaken, but you also have the distinct honor of being the only woman that's ever been inducted into their Personal Growth Hall of Fame, and also one of the few honorees that have won their gold medal award. And I believe that still is, of course, true to today, if I'm not mistaken, which is fantastic. You know, you and your husband, Michael, have received so many awards and recognition. I know the Association Child Help, which you're very passionate about, has given you what they call the Spirit of the Children Award. Of course, there was a bank in Arizona that has given you recognition as one of Arizona's big power couples, of course, George W. Bush. Of all of the recognition that you've received throughout your career, has there been one award or one key piece of recognition which really has stood out that you're the most proud about?
Well, I don't want to sound flip, but usually it's the next one. I'm so honored by the awards and the recognition. We don't pay for awards when they come in. It's just an incredible honor to know. You know, growing up, my dad would ask me each night, Sharon, have you added value to someone's life today? And so he's been gone for 14 years. I still ask myself that every night. So when I get acknowledged or I receive an award, it's really to validate the fact that we all need to contribute. We all need to make a difference. My Play Big movement is being number one in your field, living your legacy, and creating maximum impact. So I know I'm still making a positive impact on people's lives when I get recognized. Obviously, when I was asked to be highlighted in the Think and Grow Rich Legacy movie, that was a huge honor. And then earlier this year, the first television series, World's Greatest Motivators, I joined several of my friends being highlighted as one of the top motivators in the world. Those are pretty amazing things. The Gold Medal Award from the Napoleon Hill Foundation for literary achievement, very few people have received that. And so that really helped me feel really good about the 25 books that I've written, the impact that I've had, and certainly the association that I have with the foundation I cherish. And I value that very much.
Wonderful. You know, one question I was really excited to ask you that ties in to conversations I've had with Matthew Knowles, who's been such a tremendous influence in the music industry, working with tremendous celebrities like Chaka Khan, of course, Kool and the Gang, his daughter Beyonce, is he made the comment when I was first getting to know him that when I hear a song for the first time, Brad, I know right away that it's either going to be a big hit or it's not. And, you know, you've been involved, of course, with so many books over the course of your career. When you read a manuscript, are you able to sense that there's something about that that's really touching people in a special way where that's going to be a big bestseller?
I believe so, yes. I think, you know, when I teach people how to write, most people want to write so they sound smart. Right? I want you to write as if you're communicating to the reader. Because if you think of a book, you read it, it goes into your eye, into your brain, all right, like a textbook. Yes. And hopefully you can remember it and regurgitate it on the test, right? If you want a book that really moves people, you want them to be able to read it and have it go to the heart and then the brain. Because when you touch someone's heart, you make tremendous impact, and they will remember they won't necessarily remember the words they read, but they'll remember the impact it had on them emotionally. And that's why Think and Grow Rich is such an incredible book, because I read it every year. The book doesn't change, but I do from one year to the next. And so whatever I need to see right now is what's going to pop out of that book. And I'm going to go, I don't remember that being there. So each of us, a book that moves. When I was given the incredible honor to read the manuscript for Outwitting the Devil, it had been hidden for 73 years. Napoleon Hill's wife forbid it to be published because she worked for the Presbyterian College and the title scared her to death. So it was sent to me, of course, typed on a manual typewriter with Napoleon Hill's handwritten notes in the margins. And I ran over to the ocean where I do most of my writing, turned everything off and sat and read the manuscript. It was as if I was in a conversation with Napoleon Hill. And it had such an incredible impact on me and my thought process that I called Don Green right away. I said, this has got to get out, because it was truly I'm not going to say earth-shaking, mind-shaking about how we allow fear to control us in our lives. I have other manuscripts that come in that people ask me to review and to read, and we have a process that we do that through the office. But a lot of times a book is really good. I'll say, great book. It doesn't move me, all right? And I think a book can say something to you and something entirely different to me. So it's kind of in the eyes of the reader, but more in the heart of the reader. Sure. And so, yes, I love having the opportunity to participate in books that I feel are going to make an impact on people.
It's wonderful. Thank you. You know, one thing I wanted to discuss today was something, of course, that I know for you was a pivotal point in your life. And of course, that was the passing of your son in 2012 when he passed unexpectedly. And I've read that all of your successes up to that point kind of faded away into the background. You kept on working, but you were really on autopilot, kind of detached. And then all of a sudden, something changed. And of course, now, out of that came the Play Big movement, which was really a call to action. You're touring the country, of course, with my close personal friend, Michael Burt, Coach Burt, and of course, Tim Story, the world shaker, on the comeback tour. What was it at that pivotal point that really turned the table for you?
Well, I'm sure everybody watching and listening has had something that stopped them in their tracks. It could be a death, a divorce, a financial setback, some sort of a failure, an illness on your part. And we end up getting numb. I mean, I was numb and kind of living in neutral and autopilot, as you said. And for several years, I was still working, but I didn't have the passion and the zest, and I wasn't playing big anymore. And as I said, the talking book industry, we worked with Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street. In building Rich Dad, I was working with Warner Books, Time Life, always playing a much bigger game. And all of a sudden, I found myself kind of playing small, just kind of staying safe. I want everybody staying safe in my place, right? Not putting myself out there. And about 4 years ago, I thought I really should just retire. All right. I wasn't doing it because I had to. I was doing it because I wanted to. But yet at the same time, I was so numb. And I got a lot of pushback from family and friends. And I think when you asked me what happened, I think that was when I started talking about retiring. I actually took some time to slow down, do that very well. I wasn't a very good one I don't do idleness very well. And I got, as I said, pushed back. And I actually think I heard in my ear from my son, get over it, Mom. There's more for you to do. And that's my message to everybody watching and listening today. No matter what has happened to you, it could be horrible. It could be certainly losing a son. We are not supposed to outlive our children. It was devastating. I mean, it's not something that you ever get over, but it is something that you say, I'm still here for a reason. You're still here for a reason. And what you've been through and survived is a testament to who you are, and you can reach and help others that are going through something similar. Even when I made the decision to play big again and launch the Play Big movement, which is being number one in your field, living your legacy and creating maximum impact, I launched that to share the things that I was doing so that other people could do it as well. But I still I wasn't open about losing my son until I was on a stage one time and I was being interviewed just like you and I. And they said, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you? And usually they ask, what's the worst business decision you make or what's happened in the business world, right?
Sure.
And so it was at that moment, when you lose a child, everything else pales and stuff that stressed me out doesn't stress me out anymore. And so I was very honest about losing my son. It was the first time I had really shared the depth of the pain and what had happened. And I was unbelievably overwhelmed by people coming up afterwards, just wanting to share their stories, feeling connected to me in a way that I just never even expected. And so when we can be more vulnerable, in fact, when I made the decision to play big again, I was working with an agent out of New York, and he said, Sharon, you just need to be more vulnerable. And I couldn't even say the word, blah, 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 because when you're taught at my age, we've always taught to come across as, as perfect as possible, right? And as put together and don't show vulnerability. Sure. And that's not what the world wants now. The world wants to find out that you stubbed your toe this morning, or that you put 2 different shoes on, or that you've had a failure and been able to get through it. And so I've been much more open about it and sharing it. And it's something that has allowed me to connect with people in a much bigger way. And certainly in 2020, the tremendous pain people are going through, the fear of death, the fear of isolation because of quarantine, fear of financial collapse. It's like the trifecta of fear. And the people want to try and hide and pull the covers over their head. And I go, fear does one of 2 things. It paralyzes you or motivates you. And I want people to take that fear, turn it into focus on what your next chapter should look like, and then turn that focus into fuel and refire your life, because there's tremendous opportunity out there for people.
I could not agree more. We're seeing it each and every day, and we're so blessed that we're in the industry we're in, of course, which is helping people and really working alongside them to coach them, mentor them, help transform their lives. I believe part of the job of a good coach is getting people to do things tomorrow that they're incapable of doing today, which is really a sign of, personal growth and personal development. I remember when I saw you and Tim and Coach speaking up in Dallas at the comeback. Tim, in his message, had 3 words that he resonated over and over and really beat into the audience. And those were the 3 words that all rhymed, which were right, sight, and fight. You have the right to abundance. You have the right to create the life you want. You have sight, meaning, of course, you have to see your goals and you have to see your dreams. And then, of course, you have to fight, because life isn't easy. Life has adversity. Life is going to knock you down. And the one thing that really has astonished me as I've studied self-development and human performance is so many people, Sharon, lack goals. I always refer in my messaging and my coaching with my mentees and students that Harvard University did a study many years ago where they took a large sampling, a fairly large audience of thousands of people, and they asked this group how many people had goals. And only 13% raised their hands. The other 87% had things they wanted to do, but really had not concretely come up with any goals for their lives. And then they went one step further and they asked, okay, of this roughly 13%, how many have physically taken the time to put those goals in writing? Only 3%. And I firmly believe that there's a tremendous thing that takes place when you write something down. My background, of course, was in architecture. And so as an architectural student, we carried around, little sketch pads all the time, and you would make little notations and sometimes little sketches of buildings or ideas. And you would put that little sketch pad away, and maybe 6 months, maybe even a year would pass. And when you see that sketch, it triggers something. And I always tell people that as an architect, you can now take that sketch, create a blueprint, and then take that blueprint and give it to a builder. And in 2 years, of course, you can walk up and physically touch a real building that is now there on the horizon. And I believe the same thing takes place in our minds when you write something down. I call it implantation. You're implanting an idea or something that you can now visually focus on. But what I loved about Tim's message and what I find missing with so many people is they lack goals. And what's really amazed me as a speaker or as a keynote when I go to large events is so many people are willing to spend the $97 or the $197 to go and listen. And they get all motivated and they get all inspired, but they're so unwilling to take the next step to invest whatever it might be, even if it's $997 or $1,500 to get a coach, get a mentor, get somebody that can really help them. And so I guess my question is, why, in your mind, Sharon, do you believe that so many people are unwilling to help themselves? It's almost like they're paralyzed or stuck in quicksand. They listen and they hear, they're listening to podcasts, they're reading books, but they're unwilling to move off dead center and actually commit to do something, which is the sad thing I see for so many people.
It's so true. And that you go back to that same event the following year and they're still there, they're back, they're probably in the same seat and they haven't taken any action. So in my book, 3 Feet from Goal, which was the first book I did with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and I released the personal success equation. Mm-hmm. And in it talks, everybody's journey is different. You start with your passion and your talent. Passion, you do what you love what you do. Or for me, it was actually what I was angry about. We weren't teaching kids about money. Plus your talent, your education, your life experience. I had a lot of accounting. I had a lot of publishing. So I could combine those two. And most of us stop there, Brad. And what I really want people to open their minds is that passion plus talent keeps you getting a paycheck. It keeps you doing all the work. It gets really tiring very quickly. It's only so many days in the week, so only hours in the day. And so passion plus talent times a power of association. like you and I met and we have this association now. Continuing to expand your association, having people on your team who are strong where you are weak, having the right mentor, that right coach that's going to help speed your way to success. And then times 8, taking action. That's what we're talking about, right? Why aren't they taking action? Why aren't they doing what they needed to do? And then plus F is faith, having faith in yourself. And invariably, they're not taking action because they don't have the right people around them and they don't have the right confidence and faith in themselves. Yep. And that's, in fact, why Napoleon Hill wrote Outwitting the Devil. He spent his life working on Think and Grow Rich, 25 plus years, released it in 1937, and he was frustrated. He says, even though I have this treasure trove of steps to success, people will read it, they'll know what to do, but they just won't do it. Yep. And he added the last chapter, the 6 Ghosts of Fears, but it really pushed him to sit down and write Outwitting the Devil, because it's that fear that holds us back, that paralyzes us. And it can be the fear of failure, fear of success. He talked about the fear of old age, fear of loss of love, fear of poverty, fear of death, fear of criticism, which before 2020, I felt was the most pervasive fear in our society. I'm afraid I'm not going to look good. I'm afraid somebody's going to criticize me. I'm afraid. And so I'm not going to take any action. So you paralyze yourself. But those people that are there, they're not willing to invest in themselves. They have that fear of, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve it. Right? I can't afford it. That when you say I can't afford it, it closes your mind. It's a negative statement and you want to hide. So the power of our words is so important. So instead of saying I can't afford it, let's change our words, say, how can I afford it? Figure out how to afford that $997 class. It might be just the kick in the you-know-what that you need to be able to create a better future. However, I'm going to give you a caveat, because what's happened this year is a plethora of online resources and courses. Do your due diligence. Don't just spend $997 because it's a great sales pitch. Make sure it's the right person, somebody who has success, somebody who really can dig deep and help you get to where you want to be. But most people are in that paralysis stage. They're afraid to take the step. They're afraid to get out of their zone, and it's their comfort zone. Even if it's uncomfortable, it's their comfort zone. So they need somebody to help draw them out. And that's why that power of association is so important. When I start working with a new mentoring client, invariably it's their associations and their self-confidence that need the most work. And they've already taken action by wanting to work with me. And so I'm dedicated to making sure their associations grow and their confidence grows. When you have the right people around you, your confidence grows automatically, because you've seen the intelligence and the ability of having that mastermind, of having the right people around you, people who are strong where you are weak. And it's so important for people to understand that. I've got a guide on the personal success equation. You go to personalsuccessequation.com. It's free. Would love for you to go really challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone. If you got the right people around you, they're going to be challenging you all the time, challenging you to take that next step. Don't be one of those people that just lets life go by them. When you talk about those people that aren't willing to invest in themselves, and Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill talks about drifting. Sure. 98% of people drift. 2% are non-drifters because they control their mind. They control their action. They control what they're doing. And the devil doesn't mess with them. The 98%, the drifters, they kind of go with the flow. Whatever you ask them where you want to do, oh, I don't care. They don't have control over their own thoughts or their own actions. So where are you? Become a non-drifter. Take control of your future. Take control of what you want. Definiteness of purpose, learning from adversity, controlling your environment, your time. Those are the steps that help you really create the success that you deserve.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You know, I wish I could literally push rewind and replay that for our listeners again, because there were 2 things in there that really resonated with me. And that were the words, of course, I can't. I believe that 2 of the smallest words in our entire English language are really 2 of the most important. And I learned this from my good friend who's also a coach, and that's, of course, Rock Thomas, who's worked alongside people like Jack Canfield and Stephen Covey and, of course, Tony Robbins. And he said, those two words, if you believe in positive affirmations, which I strongly believe in, looking at yourself in the morning as you're preparing yourself for the day, whether you're brushing your teeth or combing your hair and just saying things over and over. He said, the words that you associate to two of the smallest words, which are just I am, are going to follow you out the door. And it's really how you describe yourself introvertly and how you think of yourself as a person. One of the things that I coach on is how people instantaneously can create a state of mind. And I actually learned of this many years ago, and it just amazed me when I was a top sales trainer for one of the world's largest insurance companies. And there was a young woman that I was actually out with over the course of 2 days, and she was the #1 saleswoman in the company. And she was carrying around these little packages of green Tic Tacs. She had them in her car, she had them in her purse, and every time we stopped for a sales call, she would take a few and she would put them in her mouth. And towards the end of the day, about 3, I just looked at her and I said, you really love those Tic Tacs, don't you? And she said, oh yeah, let me tell you about this. She said, it's not that I want fresh breath or I want my breath to smell good when I'm going in. She said, it's a reminder. And I said, a reminder for what? And so she held up a box of Tic Tacs and she said, what color are these? And I said, they're green. She said, exactly. It reminds me to be thinking green going into the sales meeting and be thinking green coming out, because of course, green is the color of money. And it was a state of mind that instantaneously she was able to kind of snap her fingers. Coach Burt calls it flip the switch. And as I've studied successful people, I heard from Rock Thomas that Tony Robbins is able to do the same thing. And most people don't know this about Tony, but before he gets out on stage, where they've got the music blasting and of course his team is energizing the audience, he's not sitting on a couch or sitting in the corner where they say, Tony, you got a minute to get on. He's jumping up and down on a trampoline, getting his blood and his energy level up.
I've seen him. Yep, that's exactly.
And after, about a minute, they say, Tony, you got 30 seconds. He hops off that tramp, he spins around 3 times, gives himself a couple of big chest pumps, and he goes charging out there. It's the flip the switch. It's creating the state of mind. And so I teach people that whether you have an important interview or whether you have a big meeting or whether you have, an important date with someone that you're passionate about, it's the ability to bring your A game to everything that you do throughout life. I've had the rare distinction of hosting Dana Cavalier, who was the performance coach to the New York Yankees. And so we were talking about the concept of going pro, becoming a champion in everything you do, doing away with your amateurish beliefs and the things that you're dragging along, which is of course drifting. And I think it all comes back to that you just have to make a decision at some point in your life that you're going to go pro, that there's a bigger field to be playing on. And it's so difficult for so many people to see that. And I think the reason is that as humans, we're unfortunately creatures of comfort. We weren't gifted with the prey drive of a lion or a tiger. We retreat in periods of difficulty rather than moving forward and taking action. And I just love the concept that Coach teaches, of course, which is activating that prey drive and taking action, because that's exactly what more and more people should be doing today. It's moving forward, it's taking action. Money follows motion. And one of the things that you said, which really resonates me, is very, very successful people are so focused on what they want. They know what their goals are. That Coach Burt says big time people don't listen to their feelings. You see, when I wrote my first book, I'm sure like many authors and people that Sharon, I thought the first group of people that would go out and buy it would be my mom, my siblings, my nieces and nephews. And the funny thing, of course, on that journey was very few of them ran out to buy my book because they never saw me as the author. They never saw me as the keynote speaker. They never saw me as the coach. And as things have evolved over the last 2 years now, of course, all of them have copies and all of them are now some of my biggest supporters. But it's very interesting that so many people get caught up in that psyche of what you said. And that is, of course, the biggest fear is the judgment of other people. What will my friends think? What will my siblings think? What will my parents think? And of course, really the most important thing is what are you going to think? You know, are you going to get to a point where you're 90 years old and you've only got a few months to live and you're looking back on your entire life with regret, saying, man, I had so much potential. There was so much more that I wanted to do that I never took action. And I tell people, don't live a life of regret. Don't listen to the limiting beliefs and the self-doubt that are circling around in your mind, because they're like weeds. And you have to look at your mind like a garden. You got weeds that need to be pulled out. And then of course you have the towering oaks that just need a little water and some sunshine. And those things can flourish into great things, and really you can live a wonderful, prosperous life. Well, this has been great, Sharon. I wanted to thank you so much for your time today. One of the things that I wanted to do is direct people to your website, obviously, Pay Your Family First, and allow you to kind of talk about the financial literacy company that you've built, because I think people, when they hear financial literacy, may confuse that with, obviously, you know, financial advisory, financial planning, which I know you don't do. But talk a little bit about your company, Pay Your Family First, and how people can find and connect with you.
Absolutely. Well, the easiest way to find me is SharonLechter.com. The Pay Your Family First information is there as well. And you can find me at Sharon Lechter on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, author Sharon Lechter. And then I also have a private Facebook group called the Play Big Movement with Sharon Lechter. And I do broadcasts there every single week that are free. I do a broadcast on my author Sharon Lechter page. And we invite you to reach out to me if you have questions, info@SharonLechter.com. And most people, when given that up permission, they don't do it because they kind of hesitate. They feel, you know, she doesn't really mean it. I really mean it. Reach out to us, info@SharonLechter.com. And understand, go to personalsuccessequation.com. Look at your own personal success and see how you can move forward, because what Brad says is so true. And when I talk about goals, you know, goals that are not written down are wishes. Yeah. You got to write them down to have a goal. And I tell people, have that big goal, the big, hairy, audacious goal, but also have stepping stones along the way. Mm-hmm. And then when you make each stepping stone, celebrate, because that builds your self-confidence. And that's how we build our faith and our self-confidence so that we can take action. But understand that, you know, during the Great Depression, many of today's greatest companies were born. In 2008, many of today's most successful companies were born. We are there again, ladies and gentlemen. We have the opportunity to step up, solve a problem or serve a need. That's how you're going to create very successful companies, serving others, creating opportunities for others, improving their lives. So the sky is the limit. You follow people like Brad, like me. We're here to support you every step of the way. We have mentoring programs, as Brad does. We want to support you in creating your next best life. So please reach out and connect with me today.
Folks, again, the amazing Sharon Lechter. Get her books, follow her, possibly consider even hiring her as a mentor. Sharon, thank you so much. Folks, this is another wonderful, wonderful show here on Beast Nation. We'll be back, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.